I'll call the City of Menasha Common Council meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Justice for all.
Could we have the roll up this time?
One moment. Okay, now I'm ready. Alderman Langdon?
Here.
Alderman Schmidt? Alderman Schmidt, we did not hear you.
I said here.
Thank you. Tom Grady?
Here.
Alderman Ted Grady?
Here.
Alderman Rapella?
Here.
Alderman Nichols?
Here.
Alderman Taylor?
Here.
Alderman Stefanik?
Here.
All are present.
Item D is a temporary suspension of the rules. Do we have a motion?
Mayor.
Alderman Stefanik?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'll move that we temporarily suspend the rules of the Common Council and the Mayor so that we can use our electronic devices to have this teleconferencing web conference.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Seeing none, we'll move on to the report of department heads, staff and consultants. Director McKinney, did you want to take it at this point?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so the report I'm giving you tonight is basically case counts from today and then the most recent summary from our last week just prior to the holiday. So our case counts this evening are 1,529 laboratory confirmed, 120 probables, 52 actives, 1,581 recovered, 6,758 negatives, 85 ever hospitalized, and 16 fatalities. And
Can I
then
ask you a quick question before you go on? You had
Sure.
that, can you go back to the past slide? You're saying that you've had this many negative cases. Are you saying that many people tested, and are they being multiple tested? Or
So there may be negative test results. So these are 6,758 negative test results.
because that's like 1 in 3 of our population, basically. So that's why I'm wondering: are people just being tested like constantly, or what? That seems
We do know that some people do test multiple times, but we're not sure. So
all right. Thank you very much.
sure. And then we're looking at the confirmed case count, and I used the Menasha Joint School District plan for this presentation so that you can see what we look like in comparison to adjacent communities. And for the last 2 weeks, we've had 55 cases. The case rate per 100,000 is 314.1. So we've come out, and this is just laboratory confirmed cases, it's not the probables. So we've come out of the critically high and out of the very high, and we are at just the high classification at this time. It looks like our trajectory, or the rate that it's coming down, is -49, so we're shrinking. Our activity level again is high. And then I wanted to just take a minute and look at this with you, and I believe it was in the report that you received, but because we have something called probable cases, we've had that pretty much since early summer. in early summer, we recognized that some people were close contacts of those who had COVID, but were never tested and may have become symptomatic. And because they were never tested, because they were with close contacts, we call those probables. It also includes that probable category, something called antigen tests. An antigen test is usually a little bit more rapid, but in order to confirm whether or not there's actually COVID, we need a PCR molecular test. So a person is probable if they've had the antigen test, and as soon as they have the results of a PCR test, they transfer into a confirmed if they're laboratory confirmed by PCR, or not a case if they're negative. So we watch this very closely. So just so you know what the difference is, we want to make sure that we're really transparent here and show you that, you know, there are additional probable cases in addition to the laboratory confirmed cases. And if we combined those two sets, the laboratory confirmed and the probable cases, our case rate would be a little higher, 434 per 100,000. It's a little bit higher and puts us into the very high range if we use those probable cases. And the next slide just shows you how quickly we've come down and where we're headed. So you can see that again over the summer, and you can see the bumps by holidays and the bumps by Labor Day, and as we went back to school, and the high trajectory. And then we, you know, obviously mask orders and all of those things came into play, and we started to see a downward trajectory. And, you know, we're grateful that we haven't seen a bump up after Thanksgiving. And we're all hoping that people really followed the gathering recommendations and kept those gatherings to family members, kept their masking and their physical distancing and hand hygiene in place so that we can see that downward trajectory continue. And the reason that's so important is that's because we use that to make decisions about, for example, whether or not to go back to school. The background transmission, if it's very, very high in the critically high range or very high, the recommendation that Harvard has is that, to make sure that we have virtual. And so, you know, we want to get out of that critically high range, that very high range, and stay down under 350 per 100,000. So, you know, you can imagine how glad we are. We want to see the children back in school, and we want to see our businesses more robust. The other things we looked at are confirmed case incidents. This is what Harvard actually uses, and we use a combination of the state's COVID-19 activity level plus the confirmed case incidents per 100,000 on a daily basis. So we get about 16.3 cases per 100,000 in the last 7 days prior, you know, when we did this report. And that puts us into the orange. We had been in the red for quite some time. If you look at the Menasha Joint School District boundary, however, and this is a state number, so that would include Fox Crossing and parts of Appleton and parts of Calumet County. That's at 27.5 cases per 100,000 per day. So we look at that as well. And then we look at testing. And I don't know if you recall, at some point, we were well above 20 per positive tests per day, 20%, which is pretty high. That's in the red zone, and we've come down a bit. We're still in the red zone, and we're not getting quite as many tests as we should be. Our goal for getting into the green is 28 tests per day. So it's telling me there's still reason for concern. We don't have enough testing. We're still in that 14.3%. And recall that some of the, like New York City and some of the bigger cities, we're looking at a 3% positivity rate as, you know, considering going virtual with their schools. I would be gleeful if we were at below 10% right now. But if we can get people tested, get them isolated if they have the disease, get their close contacts quarantined, then we have a better chance of, suppressing that disease. We are able to contact the positive cases and the close contacts in a timely manner, so we've got a good contact tracing team on board. Our hospital capacity, this is rather new, and I wanted to share this with you. We looked at percent of inpatient beds that are occupied, and you can see here we're in the yellow. We're not in the red. We have been in the red, but we're not in the red. We're in the yellow. And then in this next slide, you'll see that our ICU beds were in the yellow, so they are occupied. But the percent of beds occupied by patients with COVID-19 has come down, and we're in the light green. So all those things, we look at as a package and make decisions based on that. So again, our case incidence from this last area that you saw is in the orange. Our test positivity rate is still in the red. Our goal is to get down less than 5 if we can. And then 19.3 average tests per day. Our goal is 28 tests. We're able to contact everyone in a timely manner. Our beds, our ICU beds are in the yellow. We want to get down below less than 80%. And then 7.6 beds is our hospital inpatient capacity occupied by COVID-19. We're in the light green. We want to get down below 5%. So those are the things that we're looking at. I'd like to point everybody to our data summaries. We want to make sure that people have timely information both for the Menasha Joint School District and for our weekly data summaries. We are working to align our weekly data summary for the city to be very similar to the Menasha Joint School District pandemic plan. We want to make sure that we're advising based on science and based on CDC or Harvard or Carnegie Mellon or some of those other institutions, Johns Hopkins, for example, that really have studied this. Our testing sites, just want to give you a little update on that. We talked about it a little bit. Our testing site in Oshkosh has been extended through to March 10th, 2021. You'll want to look at our website to make sure that you get the hours, the dates and hours, because they may have changed slightly. Appleton North, and when you say wing testing, this is our Wisconsin Army National Guard testing. That site's extended through January 6th. We do have Theta Care mobile testing at Christ the Rock Church in Menasha, Thursday, January 7th from 9 to 5. There is a registration that you can do online. It's a self-swab and it's a PCR, so that's that gold star that we were talking about. That test that we take is confirmatory. And then Theta Care mobile testing unit in Chilton High School, January 6th and January 13th from 9 to 5. We are working on testing. We're working with our neighboring health departments and with the state to make sure that we have them up and going continually during the pandemic, so we can make sure that we can isolate people who have the disease and notify their close contacts so we can limit community spread. We talked about close contact quarantine changes last time. And then our vaccination, just a little update on the vaccination for you. We are coordinating with not only the state, but with our local health departments. We have been approved as a vaccinator, which means that all of our staff are now going to be trained up to vaccinate. We're completing a state survey by 5 o'clock tomorrow. Phase 1A is where the vaccination stage is in, and that is long-term care and their workers, hospital systems and their workers, EMS. Again, we're coordinating with the counties and the city of Appleton on getting that vaccination out and planning together. We will be ordering vaccine, but we want to make sure that we use it in a timely manner. So that's where we're at right now. You've heard a little bit about the variant strain of the virus, and let me see if I can pull this up, but on the, I don't know if I can. If you can, you can go to the CDC website and look up the variant strain of COVID-19. Basically, what we know about this is that it may not cause more illness or death, but it may be more transmissible. And that's being studied right now. So, keep your eyes open for that. Again, there's all the more reason to double down on all of the public health measures that we know work, which is the masking, especially if you're leaving your home and you're inside another area or building, the physical distancing, the gathering in groups in your home with just people from your household or outside, making sure that you maintain that 6-foot distance and keep groups very, very small and only going out for essential items. So that's about all I have tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Nancy, did you want to give a quick update on what the school district's plans are for returning?
Sure. Yes. So this week everyone is virtual. So this week, and then we are hoping that the numbers hold and that we can get people back in person the 11th of January. So if you have been looking at the Menasha Joint School District website and their plans, that plan actually has how we progress. We don't just jump back into things, we kind of ease back into things depending on where we're at. So if we're in the Harvard orange zone and the state's blue zone, it gives us a little bit more flexibility. So, starting back with people in virtual learning models and hybrid learning models and in person if they're younger, since it's more difficult for them to learn using virtual learning. So that is the plan right now. And, obviously subject to change depending on the trajectory of the disease and what we found out and learn about all of these other factors.
Okay, great, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just have concern about the process for vaccinating and where we're going to be with this, because you and I talked about this more than a month ago, trying to get everything in place right away so that once we do get the vaccine, that we can administer it as soon as possible in a timely manner. Can you just, you gave a little verb about it, but are we looking at how are we planning on, as our department, administering it? Are we going to have it through the schools? You're at City Hall. How are we doing this? Because you're talking 18,000 people here, and they're saying till spring, and I think this is an easier process than what's being done right now. It just seems like if we can get that many people to go out and vote and take care of things, we should be able to vaccinate people relatively quickly. I remember when I was in school, we got vaccinated. They lined us up, boom, boom, boom. We all got vaccinated for a number of things, and it was a quick process. So help me out here so that, when I get calls, I can respond.
No, sure. It is a little bit more complex than, for example, our influenza vaccines. Number one is that the vaccine requires the currently approved vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, both require a 2-dose series. So you're not just talking 1 dose, you're talking 2. They also require an observation time after you get the vaccine. Now, we used to do, not used to, but we do that with our influenza vaccine where we have an observation of 10 minutes. But this is a longer observation time. So we have to make sure that people are tolerating the vaccine well and that there's no complications there. And we have a whole process for if people do have, a difficulty, although it's very rare. But we do have to factor that into our appointments, et cetera. And then the third factor is making sure that we have a space that can accommodate it and to do it in a way that is efficient. So we're working on that. The other item is that the ordering piece of it, the vaccines, as you know, the Pfizer needs to be maintained at a particular temperature, and it has to be, you have to prepare it before you administer it. It's a little bit more tricky than you would just do a pre-filled syringe with an influenza vaccine. So it's a little bit more time consuming. The logistics of it are a little bit trickier, and we also have other agencies that we want to work with so that they can vaccinate the people that they need to, and we do it in a way that the people who need to get the vaccine to take care of patients, for example, get those first. So it's a little bit more complex, and it's not like when I was in school where we all lined up outside the gym and were able to do that. We have to distance people. We have to make sure that they're not in contact with one another, because and I know that people may be asymptomatic and can spread the disease. We have to do a pre-screening before they come in the door to make sure that they're healthy enough to take the vaccine and that they're not, experiencing any symptoms. So it takes a lot of planning and thinking, and it also takes more than just selecting a site, mobilizing people and putting them in place. There's other logistics that need to go into it as well. The amount of doses that you are ordering, for example, need to be carefully thought out so that you cannot waste any, that it's done well and done quickly, and that you have people willing to take it right away. So it's gonna take time. So 2-dose series, a little bit more complex to manage depending on which vaccine you have, and then the logistics of it to accommodate people coming in and making sure that they not only are able to get the vaccine, but they tolerate it well. So we're looking at all those factors. I hope that helps explain it. And then just the pure logistics of getting it out to this many people across the country. And as you know, there have been, hiccups with that.
Alderman Nichols.
Thank you. Director McKinney, you talked a lot about the school district's plan that they follow to determine when and how to reopen in person. Does the city have a plan comparable to that to help determine when it would be acceptable, I use that word hesitantly, to bring people back into a group setting?
That's a great question, and that's what we're working on right now. Actually, the model that we use is a Harvard model, and we aligned it with the Department of Health Services, those blue, like I showed you with the blue. I don't know if I can bring it back up. So that we know that, for example, Harvard red is comparable to our critical range in the state. We have something similar that we're working on for the city so that we can say, for example, okay, we're at 350 per 100,000. Now it might be time where we can gather in smaller groups and have an event, or we can open, for example, the gym or the senior center or park and rec activities. That's what we're using. So you'll see more of that, and we're hoping to make sure it guides it, because it has been extremely helpful using it for the school district. We have something similar that we're rolling out for the city.
And then how would you use the data that's available? Because we have the lab confirmed data, and then we have this probable data that will be with us now. And so when you look at those two separately, they look different than when you look at them together.
Right. You picked up on that slideshow, which is great. That is a good question, because when you look at a probable, we treat them at the health department as though they are positive. So it only makes sense to look at both numbers, but then they fluctuate because some people who are probable and have an antigen test get their PCR tests, and then they go into confirmed. So it is a little trick. We'll have to really look. That's why it's important to look at all of the factors. So not only like the 314 per 100,000, or the combined measure that we looked at together, which was 434 per 100,000. But then what does the positivity rate look like in the community? Do we have a high positivity rate or a lower positivity rate? And do we have adequate testing? So it isn't just one measure that kind of helps us out here, but all of those combined in order to make a decision. And then, frankly, looking at the populations that you're serving. So for example, Megan Sackett, when she's working with the senior center, or, we are Megan Polly, our public health nurse, depending on what the activities are, what is the age group that we're working with and how vulnerable are they? So, it's not just one measure alone, although I would say the daily case incidence and the case activity level is, something we look at primarily, but it's everything taken together. I know that doesn't give you a cut and dry answer. Like, do we take the combined number, or do we take the laboratory confirmed cases? But I think we'll look at some middle ground and how we're seeing the trajectory and how we're seeing the positivity rate. And also the hospitalization in our area. We want to make sure that we have capacity for whatever the hospitals need to treat people with. So keeping that hospital capacity in a manageable range is also really important.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Helps if you turn that back on.
Yeah, you gotta have your mic on.
Then we'll move on to the minutes and communications. Do we have a motion? Alderman Simon?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'll move that we receive minutes A through G and the one communications H.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor, and I have a discussion.
Sure.
I did.
Okay. First of all, I was reading in the library minutes that our director, Vicki Lenz, is retiring, and certainly it's wonderful for her to reach retirement, but definitely her expertise will be missed here in the city of Menasha, and she's taken the library to new heights throughout her career, and she will be missed. Other item I have is from the Park Board minutes, November 10th. A motion was made to keep the slip fees the same for 2020, 2021. And I'm a little disappointed in that because the harbor master, her wages have gone up, her insurance has gone up, and we just put in a new fuel tank, and so there's a lot of costs there that we need to continue to move those fees up every year to reflect that. Not a lot, but they need to keep moving with inflation, or at least to keep with inflation. And last year I think we had 16 new pontoon boats, and that might be a reduction in the size of the boats, but I agree with the public comments from Sandra to Bill Taylor, and talked about the how the changes of slip fees that weren't reliant on the size of the boat, and I think that's something the city should really consider, and then we don't lose money with the size of the boats decreasing. And also something that she had mentioned in that meeting, talked about the regulation of the Racine Street Bridge openings. And when we take control of that, that's something that we're going to have to look at. And since we'll be paying for it, the more you open and close, the more wear and tear on it. So that's something else in the future we're going to have to address. And the other one I had was the question for Chief Cohen about the treated lumber to complete a decking for the project of the training tower. And I was just wondering how much lumber do you need for that project?
That lumber was to build a stairway up to the top of the containers, and then it's a platform for crews to be able to set up their tools for the confined space prop that we have.
Okay, so it's quite a bit of lumber then, huh?
It is quite a bit of lumber, and just so everybody knows that it will be built by our own crews. So we have a couple construction contractors on our department that the build will be with our staff.
Okay, thank you. And then my
You're welcome.
other comment was on the communications we got on the city's fuel tank insurance, and what a tremendous savings. I don't know who's responsible for going out and checking that, but $9,711.75 savings on our fuel tank insurance, which is just tremendous savings. Thank you for that. That's all I have, Mayor.
That would be Attorney Captain that was working with the insurance agent. So good job, Pam.
Good job, Pam.
Alderman Sevenick.
Well, that comes with new equipment though, so that's why it came in like that. But my comment was, and I did have a conversation with one of the council members, is that I've noticed that over time, and this is in my time on the council also, that the minutes have been shrinking and shrinking and becoming less and less informative. Other than what we have with the Nina Menasha Fire Rescue, that the wonderful minutes that Tara takes, they're pretty much just the agenda. And we need to be a little more informed. Otherwise, you're gonna, you know what? You want all of us aldermen to start coming to all those meetings, because that's what we're gonna start having to do if these are the type of minutes that we're gonna receive. They're basically one sentence lines about who made the motion and who seconded and what was basically on the agenda, and very little of what the discussion is. So I don't know if anyone else has noticed that, but especially this time around, it just seems like they're very lacking. Also, too, I'm hoping that later on down the line, the accounts payable and payroll, where because of the issues we've had with the computers, there's really less information regarding those too. I guess I almost could have called her and had asked her several questions, but because a lot of these are things that I've seen over the years, I didn't have to call her. But hopefully these are not going to be the typical accounts payable and payroll sheets that we receive in the future. I hope it's because of the fact that we've had this issue with being, well, I don't know how to say it, but being compromised.
Those are
on our
temporary,
web-
Stan.
Pardon?
That's temporary. That's
Okay,
just for
thank
this meeting. It should be back the way it was at the next meeting.
Okay, thanks, Mayor.
Sure. Alderman Grady?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to comment on the Park and Rec Board minutes that Alderman Taylor made, and Sandra DeBill Taylor commented on the size of the boats and the slip fee. This was looked at 2 years ago by the Park and Rec Board, and just because it's a pontoon boat, 24 feet, if it's sitting in a 32-foot slip, it's getting charged a 32-foot price. So that is already in effect for the last 2 years.
Okay. Any other discussion? Alderman Taylor?
Mayor, I'd just like to compliment the Nina Menasha Sewage Commission for their minutes too. They're very comprehensive. You read them, you really understand it. And I've always appreciated the minutes from the fire department. They're two commissions too. Those are you really understand what's going on in the department, and you get a feel for it. And if you need more information, you can look for that. But I think those two should be a template for the community to move forward with. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed?
Aye.
Seeing none, the motion carries. Item G is public comments. Is there anyone who wishes to make a comment this evening?
Hello, Sandra DeBill Taylor, 545 Broad Street. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to wish everyone a happy new year. Hopefully 2021 will be much better for all of us and the entire population than 2020. It is my feeling that by mid-year, things will really turn around. And I have the feeling that once the worst is over, the economy is going to pick up like gangbusters. And I hope that Menasha is ready to go along with the ride. I would hate to see us fall behind like we did back in 2008 after the economic downturn. We were ill prepared for the recovery, and I hope that we are ready to hit the ground running. With that said, I first just to recap the conversation regarding the park board. Without knowing what had done in the past, my solution was that regardless of the size of the boat, a slip is a slip. I have a base fee for the size of the slip. If you put a little boat in a big slip, they still pay for the big slip price. If you put, the problem was that pontoon boats were not as long, but they needed the width. They needed the larger slips. So because they were shorter than some of the major boats, they were using up the larger slips because they needed the extra area to make the turn. And I felt we were losing money that way. Therefore, I thought if we had a flat fee on the size of the slip versus the length of the boat, we would not be losing money. But apparently that had already been looked at. So then back onto the agenda. First, I would just want to reiterate what I mentioned at the last meeting. I would still like to see a request for proposals for legal services be distributed to local legal firms for attorney representation. I believe, it's my opinion, that a firm could serve the city much better because they are experienced in all facets of municipal law, annexation, human resources, the gamut. I would like to have what their scope of services, and I do believe it would be a cost savings. This should be done prior to April, prior to the last minute, and then all of a sudden someone deciding we have to look into it. The main reason I think a firm would give us the best representation for the city, the council, and it's unbiased. Thank you. Then regarding the memo from the fire department, Menasha Fire Rescue, and the extending the intermunicipal agreement due to COVID to December of 2021. I would like that actually shortened to July, or at least have it looked at in July and see what the circumstances are, and then perhaps things would be at a point where those services would no longer be needed. My major concern here is supporting Fox Crossing. I don't want this to become where we get to the end of the year and then all of a sudden they have their new high school, Nina High School, and all the things that they're building out there, and they're going to want to have a permanent arrangement. So I want to have that. I want to just focus on that. Under the check register, I did have a question on page 3. Unity Recovery Services for over $12,000. I was curious as to what that was, and that was something that was budgeted, $12,745.50. There's also $900 to Fox Valley Convention Bureau, and I was curious what that was for. And real quick, I do want to echo Alderman Sevenick regarding the minutes. I think that's why I watched the televised meetings, because the minutes don't reflect anything of what was said. That's why it's unfortunate the Planning Commission, Park and Rec, and all these other committees are not televised, because the minutes very rarely reflect what had actually happened. Then regarding the Strong Neighborhoods Program, of course, I have been opposed to this program from day one, not the idea behind it, but the way it's been processed. I again strongly encourage the council to remove the ability of elected officials to benefit from this. I also am opposed to a non-owner occupied conversion payment of the $20,000. I don't want to see an investor come to the city, purchase a duplex, have the city help pay for the conversion, only to have that investor turn around and rent it again. I think these conversion projects and these major renovations should be owner occupied. I don't think it serves the city to turn around and just keep that rental. I also have a concern with the limit of $1,000 for exterior painting. The majority of the homes that are focused for the Strong Neighborhoods Program are built before 1979. Homes that are built before that time period, according to the EPA, if they are to hire a professional painter, would need to have lead abatement and lead testing done. That's extremely costly, time-consuming, and tedious affair to do so, and you have to have professionals doing it. We're not limiting someone if they put siding on a new home or an existing home, or doing tuck pointing, but we're limiting someone from painting their home, especially if they want to keep it the historic integrity of it. So I'm really questioning why we're limiting the painting of a home to $1,000. I think that should just be removed. Or whatever the limitation is on siding, if there is one. I think if we want to keep the character of some of these older homes and we want to restore them versus just remodel, and you have lead paint involved, it's going to cost way over $1,000. So I'm questioning why that was put in there. And lastly, regarding the Strong Neighborhoods Program, I'm very concerned that these are not a payback loan or a forgivable loan after 5 years. The excuse I've heard is that it's too much work for the staff. Granted, it's so Joe and Sam. However, we don't do this for street assessments or tax payments. We have a finance department. In fact, we're hiring someone for another position or a replacement position in finance that does take care of street assessments. It would be no different. It's something that is tracked, and if they are not, after 5 years, then the loan is forgivable if they live there. But I don't want to see this money just wiped away or totally just a free for all. I think that's just money we're giving away, and I don't appreciate that. And then lastly, I believe it's under the administration committee. There's a memo regarding Christmas lights or an ad hoc committee. I'm all for it. I think it's great. Just to be politically correct, I would change this committee to holiday lighting because I don't want to offend anyone in the community. And I would hope that you could get some of the business owners downtown and some people of the public, get some fresh faces, some fresh ideas, and not just leave this up to the mayor. He picked out the banners, he picked out the snowflakes, and I think it's time that some other people get to have input. Thank you very much and Happy New Year.
I do not believe there's anyone else from the public on tonight. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment? Seeing no one else, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do we have any items that wish to be separated? Alderman Simon?
Yes, I'd like to separate item 2, 3, and 4. That would be payment to Myron Construction. Item 3, hiring 8 firefighters, and 4, carrying forward a request for the $6,894.50 to complete the confined space property.
Alderman Nichols?
Item 1, please.
Okay, so we'll just do them individually. Is there a motion for the minutes?
Mayor, at this time, I'll move that we approve the Common Council minutes of 12/7/20 and 12/21/20.
I'll second that.
It's a motion and a second. Discussion? Alderman Nichols?
Yes, a question on the December 7th minutes near the bottom of page 1, right above Director McKinney's update. There was a point of order stated by Alderman Sevenick, and in the past, it's been noted whether or not the point of order was upheld or not. And I believe in that case it was upheld. So I'd like to offer that correction.
Okay. Anything else? So we'd have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Do we have a motion for item 2? Alderman
I'll
Lincoln?
take that. Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make the motion to approve the payment to Myron Construction Company, Inc., contract unit number 2020-06. That's for the Public Works Facility Construction Project in the amount of $423,113.30. Payment number 9.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Langdon,
Aye.
Alderman Smith,
Aye.
Alderman Tom Grady,
Aye.
Alderman Ted Grady,
Aye.
Alderman Rapella,
Aye.
Alderman Nichols,
Aye.
Alderman Taylor,
Aye.
Alderman Sevenick.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
We have a motion for item 3.
Mayor,
Alderman Sevenick?
I'd like to make a motion from the as recommended by the Menasha Fire Personnel Committee, the hiring of 8 firefighters no earlier than April 1st of 2021, consistent with Chief Cologne's memo of December 14th, 2020, with the emphasis of the chief coordinating retirement letter, plural, before the employees are hired.
Second.
So motion and second, is there discussion?
Yeah. So that last part in there was important, at least to me, that we get those letters of retirement first. And it sounded as though that would be a possibility. We don't want to hire someone and then find out that they've changed their mind and did not want to retire. Also, too, I'm sure the rest of the council read the minutes. I emphasize the fact that when we're doing this hiring, that we try to hire people within our region and not so far out as 50 miles or more, which I find to be ridiculous. And I also stated, especially to the union representative that was there, is that we offer an incentive for especially new hirees or any firefighter that wishes to live in the city of Menasha, that we do have a benefits package for them to live in our community. I think you need to take pride in the community that you serve. Therefore, you should try the best you can to live in that community. And I feel very strongly about that. So hopefully, I know the chief's on, when they do look at these individuals, they take that into consideration.
Any other discussion? Alderman Taylor?
Thank you, Mayor. I did check, I hope the commission looks into this, the fire commission. I did check with the Neenah Personnel Department, and they don't have any time date for administrative people retiring. So I think, we kind of got the rug pulled out from underneath us in late October. And I would hope that the commission looks into that and that we get at least a 30-day notice from people before they plan on exercising their right to retire. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Langdon.
Aye.
Alderman Schmidt.
Aye.
Alderman Tom Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Ted Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Rapella.
Aye.
Alderman Nichols.
Aye.
Alderman Taylor.
Aye.
Alderman Sevenick.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
We have a motion for item 4.
I'll make the motion. Oh,
Okay.
go ahead, Stan.
Okay, thank you. Again, this came from the Neenah Menasha Fire Joint Finance and Personnel Committee. They recommend, and this has to be approved like the last one by both common councils, to carry forward the request of $6,894.50 to complete the confined space property in 2021.
A second.
So motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Langdon.
Aye.
Alderman Schmidt.
Aye.
Alderman Tom Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Ted Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Rapella.
Aye.
Alderman Nichols.
Aye.
Alderman Taylor.
Aye.
Alderman Sevenick.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
I'd just like to make a comment for clarification. It wasn't the property, it was a prop.
Okay, do we have a motion for item 4?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'll move for the addendum to the mutual aid pact
Is there a second?
recommended by the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and
I'll sec-
Personnel.
I'll second that.
The motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yes, Mayor. The resident, Ms. Taylor, brought up the issue of making this July, and I think that's probably not a bad idea. The only thing is this has to be approved by both councils, so this would delay things. Because I don't know when the next Neenah meeting is, if it's tomorrow or if they had it, if they approved it. But I would think that we're still okay for this year to approve this in 2021.
Seeing no other discussion, if we could have a roll
I
call vote.
got, yep, I got discussion.
Okay,
Mayor. Chief Clone, are you on?
I am.
Okay, this is, question for you is you want to put this mutual aid together, this pact, but we never had it before. Why? Why didn't we need it before and all of a sudden we need it now?
This pact was already in place for 2020, but it ran out December 31st. So when we get together with the Fox Valley Fire Chiefs, we thought just to cover our bases, we would extend it one more year just to cover the bases. Just going over the past year, we thought, you know, if COVID really hit one of our departments, and it took out an entire shift or whatever, we would have backup if need be. We would have to exhaust quite a bit of resources for that to happen, but we just wanted to have something in place. So this agreement is just an extension. There's no other changes to it. It's just an extension just to have some protection. I believe that the most out of one department at one time was 6, and that was from Kaukauna. And then Oshkosh and Appleton periodically will have 2 to 3, maybe 4. We had a stretch of a couple weeks, 3 weeks, where we had not anybody that had COVID, but were exposed, and so that they were home. So we have really never been in jeopardy, but this is more of just like a protection, just so that if something major does happen, we just have that backup.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. I'm done, Mayor.
okay, Alderman Taylor.
Chief, if someone had, was exposed to COVID, do they get is that fall under workman's comp then, or do they get their pay, and how is that? Is that through the health department that's proven, or what is the procedure for that?
If somebody has COVID, it would come out of their sick leave. So
okay,
it comes out of their regular sick leave if they were to contract COVID.
Okay, and if they were exposed, they thought somebody was exposed to it and they were off of work, how does that play out?
So, and Pam may be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that if they were exposed and they can prove, which is difficult, if they can prove they were exposed on a call, then I believe it can be workers' comp. But I think they have to prove that it was from that call.
Okay, and not just from a saying that you were exposed at some place to this and that's why you're off of work?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And just for everyone's information, we have a very similar agreement with Appleton Water in case one or the other of us would lose a majority of our operators for the water plants, so we would cover for each other. So we have 2 agreements like this. Okay, seeing no other discussion, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Langdon.
Aye.
Alderman Schmidt.
Aye.
Alderman Tom Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Ted Grady.
Aye.
Alderman O'Pella.
Aye.
Alderman Nichols.
Aye.
Alderman Taylor.
Aye.
Alderman Sevening.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
Item J is action items. The first item is the accounts payable and payroll for December 4th through December 31st. Do we have a motion? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move to approve the accounts payable and payroll for the term of December 4th through December 31st, 2020 in the amount of $2,127,489.94.
I'll second.
It's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mayor,
Alderman Sevening.
we had a constituent that had concern about 2 of the checks, one for the Fox Cities Visitor and Convention Bureau and another pertaining to $12,000. I'm sure that Jennifer wrote those down. Can you address those for her?
I sure can.
Thank you.
The Fox Cities Convention Bureau for 900, I believe, that was the Fox Cities Visitors Guide advertising. And then the payment to Unity Recovery Services, that was to obtain services for our opioid grant program.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead.
It's a general question. I think Alderman Sevenick addressed it, but we need, hopefully this will go away when things get, but to look at a payroll register for the last 2 or 3 council meetings and not have any descriptions or knowing what's being charged and for what, it's kind of hard to okay, a couple $1 million. So hopefully this will be resolved. And is there a timetable, Jennifer, for the next meeting, maybe that there'll be descriptions of what the money's going for, or do we not know yet?
Certainly, I can address that. Yeah, as my PC is being rebuilt, I don't have the module that's separate that links to our accounting software that allows me to generate an additional check register with description. This is just the default check register. So by the next meeting, I don't see why not. We wouldn't be able to have that all going as normal. So my apologies. But you can certainly get a hold of me if you have any questions on any of them as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing no further questions, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Langdon.
Aye.
Alderman Schmidt.
Aye.
Alderman Tom Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Ted Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Rapella.
Aye.
Alderman Nichols.
Aye.
Alderman Taylor.
Aye.
Alderman Sevenick.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
Item 2 is a beverage operator's license application. Do we have a motion? Alderman Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move to approve the beverage operator's license applications for the 2019 through 2021 licensing period as listed under approved in the clerk's memo dated 12/29/2020.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's a motion and a second. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Langdon.
Aye.
Alderman Schmidt.
Aye.
Alderman Tom Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Ted Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Rapella.
Aye.
Alderman Nichols.
Aye.
Alderman Taylor.
Aye.
Alderman Sevenick.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
If there's no objections, I believe there'll be some discussion on the next item, and we do have Greg Johnson, and I'm not sure if anyone else is here for the resolution for the electric utility bonds. I'd like to move forward to that one first. Greg, would you like to explain what's happening here?
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, Greg, can you talk louder, please?
Sure, can you hear me now?
That's much better.
Great.
I'm not sure if Melanie is here or not. There's a caller number 1 that may be her.
I am on the call.
Okay.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of the resolution that's on your agenda is for the issuance of electric revenue refunding bonds. And the sole purpose of this bond issue is to refund or refinance an existing state trust fund loan that's outstanding, that is being repaid by revenues of the electric system. And presently, the interest rate on that loan is over 4%. We're estimating that by refinancing that loan, the net savings to the electric utility from 2022 to 2029 would be $1,223,997. So it's really taking advantage of lower interest rates that are available in the bond market. to refinance and lower the debt service costs for the electric utility. That's the sole purpose for this bond issue. There's no new capital projects that are being included. It's just to refinance to take advantage of lower interest rates. So in terms of the process, we're kind of at the first step this evening, which is a resolution, which is just to authorize us to proceed, to go ahead, to go into the bond market, to issue bonds to pay off the state trust fund loan. That bond sale is scheduled to occur on the 1st of February, where the results will be presented back to the Common Council for award and consideration. So this is the first step in that process. Then if the bond sale is awarded and the interest rates are favorable, the state trust fund loan would be paid off on March 4th. And so then, the new bonds would be paid by the electric system revenues going forward. So that's kind of the overview of the bond issue, really just to lower debt service costs for the electric utility from 2022 through 2029, which is the same remaining term on the existing state trust fund loan. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have questions for Greg?
Mayor, no questions. You really can't argue with this one. So at this time, I'll move for R1-21A, resolution providing for the sale approximately $8,640,000 in electric system revenue refunding bonds, Series 2021A.
I'll second that.
So motion a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Langdon.
Aye.
Alderman Schmidt.
Aye.
Alderman Tom Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Ted Grady.
Aye.
Alderman Rapella.
Aye.
Alderman Nichols.
Aye.
Alderman Taylor.
Aye.
Alderman Sevenik.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you, Greg, for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, we'll move on to item
Also,
K.
thank you, Melanie, for showing up too.
Thank you.
Item K is the held over business of the Strong Neighborhoods Program. Do we have a motion? A motion? Okay, if we have no motion, it will appear again on the agenda next week. Public comments? Do we have any public comments?
Hey, Mayor. Mayor,
Yes?
there's always on the agenda for to hear from aldermen, and I'd just like to remind the council that a lot of us and the public had talked about during the budget session, looking at improving that budget page as we try to do with our minutes and our check register. And so I would hope that sometime this winter here that we would have a workshop on that. And also I think we need to include the Racine Street Bridge. Since we're going to have ownership of that someday, we need to, there's a new legislature session, and Amanda Stuck is now not on the in the assembly. So I think we need to revisit that in a workshop on how we'd like to put together some sort of resolution to the state Senate and the assembly, especially with the new members. So I think we can accomplish a couple things in the workshops. Thank you.
Hello, I just have a quick comment regarding the resolution that was just passed for refinancing of the Menasha utilities debt. I was trying to look it up quick. If I recall, it was like a savings of $1.2 million. That's fabulous. My concern is that I'm assuming that this was contemplated a while ago to refinance, and yet the Menasha utilities went to the PSC for a rate increase. So while the utilities are saving money, the ratepayer is not. Just my comment. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further comments, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
There's a
I'll
second.
second that.